Hello there. This is my first Unreal Engine tutorial. I have been learning Unreal Engine for almost 2 years. I have learned the vast majority of what I know from YouTube videos, and I want to contribute in some way. There is not a lot out there on zone graphs, so here we are at my first attempt to give back. I am working in 5.3. If you are not sure the purpose of a zone graph, it is like a slot car track for characters to follow on your levels. In this first video, we will only cover the basics. A couple of others have included these steps already, but there will be other videos to follow. I didn't want a video to be too long. I am not going to cover the configuring of the characters themselves. This has been covered well by Viperdk UE 5 and Mick Games 2K99. Links to their channels in the description. Let's get started. You will need to enable the Zone Graph plugin if you haven't already. If you are unsure how to enable, click on Edit at the top of the editor and select Plugins. In the Plugins window, search for Zone Graph. Check it and restart the project. The Annotations plugin is not required. Once your project has restarted, we need to go to Project Settings and under Engine, or search for Zone Graphs. Skip down to the tags. Leave Default and select a color and change the name to something to help you identify it. I'm using PEDs 1, but you can see I have a bunch. After you pick a tag, go up to Lane Profiles. Click the plus sign to add an array. Give it a name. I suggest you name it what the tag is. A quick confession. Technically, each AI doesn't need its own lane profile. They can be shared. But in projects where I have different types of characters, such as various animals, the zone graphs become buggy and I find it helps me and maybe Unreal to use different profiles. Okay, confession over. Expand the new array and add 2 lane profiles. Change the tags by selecting the tag you made and deselecting the default. 150 width is fine for people. I have seen as narrow as 100. I use 400 for elephants. It really only comes into play for overlapping width-wise when they pass each other and maneuvering around tight intersections. If it's too narrow, the characters will get stuck. Make sure the second lane is set to backwards so the 2 lanes move in opposite directions. Once you have your tags and lanes, go to your level. I am in a new basic level here. In the top of your viewport, click Show, then go down to Developer and select Zone Graph. Without it, you will not see them once placed. In the Place Actors tab, search for Zone Shape and drag one out. If you have multiple lane profiles like me, make sure in the Details panel you set the lane profile and tag to the ones you created. We will make a square. You always need at least 2 pieces for a proper graph. I am going to go half and half, but you can build it how you want so long as there are at least 2 pieces. Position your first piece where you want it. When you click on the piece again, the ends will be like a spline, and you can drag to stretch. While one of the ends are selected, hold the Alt key and drag in a direction, and you will see it makes a new point. Stretch it, and then repeat. You can see the first one worked as expected, but the second corner I made, it dragged the wrong point. I still have not figured out why this happens sometimes. If you know, please share. If it happens, just drag the one back and select the other and drag it where you need it. Now it's time for the second piece. You will see in other videos people duplicating the first one and flipping it 180 and attaching. That will work for a tutorial. But if you plan a more complex graph, duplicated graph segments tend to stay attached in certain situations, and it will mess you up. I was moving segments without knowing. I do not duplicate my graphs ever. I always drag out a new one. Now I make my second graph shape, set the lane profile and tag, and get it nice and close to the first piece to complete the square. I'm having a hard time seeing the first piece. It's because it is a unit too low. With that corrected, I select a piece of the graph, then click again to get to the end point, and I connect to 2 halves of the diamonds until they turn from gray to white. You have to do this from the endpoint. They will not connect if you reposition the entire graph piece. Repeat this for the second end. You might want to save now, as sometimes the editor will crash when building the graph. Once you have your graph where you want it, you must click Build at the top and then Build Zone Graphs. This will add a zone graph data component to your outliner and also indicate the level needs to be saved again. Another thing I will share in this first tutorial: it's rare that the path you want the characters to follow has all square corners. You'll see if I drag this corner out, it makes an angle to the point it breaks the connection. When you get something like this, right-click the white line on the graph near the now broken connection and select Add Point here. You can then drag that point to fix the angle that changed and fix the connection. I call them anchor points. One last suggestion is for the 90-degree corners. Add another point nearby, and then drag the one in the corner away from the new one. This way it looks less robotic when they corner. And don't forget, build zone graph. Every time you make a change, you must build the zone graph. I cannot say it enough. I forget all the time. That's all for now. In the next one, we'll do more. Thanks for watching.